Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, we're going to talk about why we shouldn't be traditional landlords. We should be velocity banking landlords. And there are two things wrong with being a traditional landlord. Number one, segregation. Traditional landlords love to segregate their income, which we won't do anymore because we're now modern landlords, especially with our cash flow. We're going to do something called velocity banking because number two, the second problem is there is no cash flow with traditional real estate. And this has been true for a very, very long time. Yet you got all the social media, YouTubes, TikToks telling you can borrow all the money in the world and somehow you buy real estate and then you'll just cash flow and you'll have oodles and oodles of cash flow. But people who are experienced and knowledgeable know like that cash flow is a lie, right? So we got Ryan Pineda here with a video from 2 months ago saying 15 year, that hey, with my 15 years of real estate knowledge, I'm gonna tell you that rentals suck and cash flow is a lie. And that is true if you're doing it especially the traditional way. And what most people get excited about is this itty bitty cash flow because they segregate their income. You see, the segregation part that's old school and ineffective that they taught you not to do in elementary school, but they didn't tell you to apply it to your income, is the reason why you have such little cash flow. Okay? Now, if you go to Bigger Pockets right here, I always reference this article from 2023. What is average or good cash flow, right? And let's look at that magical number, which is $100 to $200 a month. Good cash flow, and look at how good is like in quotes. So what's good cash flow in quotes? $100, $200 a month in monthly cash flow. That's a good deal because the theory is you just borrow a lot of money. Hey, it's not your money. You get extra $200 a month, and it's like, well, if I have to get a $200,000 loan for that $200 a month, even though most of it's not my money, it's like it's a little, I don't know, sus. I don't know if that's the right word, but I don't want to do that, right? I don't want to do that. So we're gonna show, how we can supercharge our cash flow by becoming what we call a velocity banking landlord, right? And I practice this, right? So I'm gonna tell you that I practice what I preach. So let's go ahead and show with our Excel sheets how to do this. So give me one moment. Okay, so first things first, when we're doing rental properties, right, we have to do it in a position of strength. So if I have $6,000 of income and I have some debts that right here, like two credit cards, an auto loan, a personal mortgage, I don't think at this point in my life I want to get into rental property because we have to understand that if tenants don't pay, we want to be in a position of strength where we can easily kick them out and get another tenant in. But if, let's say, I'm making $6,000 of income and I have all these expenses, including investment mortgage, and if the tenant doesn't pay, well, I'm going to be begging them for money. And you know how people are when you need their money, they're like, no thanks. And then they want to play games with you, right? So if I have this investment mortgage, and the tenant doesn't pay, then I'm screwed. In fact, even if the tenant does pay, I'm negative 83 every month. So I'm not going to invest in a rental property until I get rid of all of my other debts, right? Or most of my other debts. We'll leave the mortgage for last. But as for now, I'm just saying, let's not do the investment property until in our personal situation, we're in a position of financial strength, okay? Because that cash flow, if it's a quote good property, is only going to cash flow $200 a month. And if we ever need that money because the tenant isn't going to pay, oh my goodness, we don't want that to be the end of the world for us, okay? Now, I'm going to give you a dose of landlord reality, okay? So if $200 of cash flow is good, and let me go ahead and do this, right? $200 of cash flow is good. As a landlord, if you hold on to it for 30 years, you only get 72,000. And how do you calculate this? It's 200 times 30 times 12, right? And we should get 72,000. Okay? Now the bank is going to make 328,000, and let's just assume this, that we got a hot smoking deal like one of these babies, right? So let's say we got a $100,000 discount on this, and for whatever reason, we got a $200,000 loan on it, right? So properties were 330. Maybe we got a $200,000 loan. Okay, how much interest are we paying to the bank? Now, if we take a look at our loan calculator here, look at this $200,000, 8% interest. After the end of 30 years, that's 360 months, look how much interest we're paying. $328,000. Oh my goodness. So if I as a landlord only make 72 grand of cash flow after 30 years and the bank is going to make 328,000, I'm like, what the F, right? Like that's the traditional landlord. And again, one of the root causes of this is the segregation of income effect. Because what happens with most landlords is, okay, tenant pays me rent, I just pay all my expenses from that tenant's rent, and we don't think about combining the power of our income like a super massive drill to pay down our debt, right? And again, sometimes this can get complicated if you have partnerships. You probably can't even do this if you have partnerships because you want to keep the corporate veil. Now, I'm not an accountant or a lawyer, and talk to one if you want some advice. Don't talk to me. But what I'm saying is that in the IRS's point of view, if you have a single member disregard to LLC, right? If you know how to do the accounting right, you can combine your income because they view you as one person. But again, I'm not an accountant, so I may be totally wrong about this. Don't listen to me. Okay, so let's go ahead and do velocity banking. I'm sorry. Let's be a velocity banking landlord. Okay, but before we become a velocity banking landlord, we gotta pay off some of our personal debts using velocity banking. And what is velocity banking? All it is a debt payoff strategy using a line of credit as your main operating account. Right, line of credit as your main operating account. So we assume two things. Number one is that same income, and then number two is no savings. I don't need savings. No thanks. After every single month, if I see that your savings account has more than $100, that's gonna be a little bit suspicious to me, right? Because we're not practicing what we preach. And if you look at my savings account, I don't have anything. Like I don't like what do I need in there? Because if my savings account is growing at 0.001% and I got debt at like 8%, heck, even if I have a savings account at 4%, right? And I got debt at 8%, no thank you, right? No thank you. Okay. So now let's go ahead and copy these expenses. And so what we're going to do is do income minus expenses, which is going to be our cash flow. Okay, it's going to be our cash flow. And the whole point of this is that we're not done yet. We're going to increase this cash flow by making our line of credit as our main operating account, which is step two. Oh boy, did I not do this right? Okay. So which is step two. So number one is the budget. Number two is that we're going to have our line of credit as our main operating account. And so what is a line of credit? All it is a financial tool where you could borrow money, pay it back, and then use it over and over again, right? So let's assume for the purposes of this video that maybe we have a $50,000 home equity line of credit. It doesn't have to be too huge, right? It just needs to handle our our expenses and an easy way to move some of our debts. So you may not have like 15 or 27 grand in credit card debt. I know I had that before. In fact, 2 years ago, I had $100,000 in credit card debt. Yep, $100,000. But I never slept because I knew the strategy. Or, I'm sorry, I did sleep because I knew the strategy. Like I didn't like freak out like, oh my goodness, $100,000 of credit card debt, right? Right. So now let's go ahead and add up how much credit card debt we have, and that's $42,000 of credit card debt. Okay, so if we have $42,000 of credit card debt and we move into the line of credit, guess what happens? Zero, zero. And now we went from $1,300 to $2,700 of cash flow in one swoop without doing anything, right? You see how easy that was? And here's the other thing too. Um, no one's ever going to give you a free and clear line of credit when you're at this situation because banks don't lend money to people who need it. Okay? I tell you this all the time and nobody ever listens because in this country, probably in other countries too, we only want to learn about finances after we've screwed up with them. right? The analogy that I always use is like, hey, if you try to um, teach me how to drive, I'm gonna get mad at you before I start like actually driving a car, right? That's what people do. Like, hey, don't offer me any classes. I already know. I watch too much YouTube, right? So that's what people do. And then once they start to crash, they're like, oh my goodness, like now I need to learn how to drive. That's what we do in this country. We crash the car and then we tell ourselves, I need to learn how to drive, metaphorically, when it comes to our finances, right? So, but what I'm showing you is if you had a line of credit available, there's so much power available to this, like to you, because again, we went from 1,300 to 2,700 in a swoop without making more money. How do we do that? I don't know. I'm just using Excel, right? So I don't think Excel lies. So now the actual strategy is paycheck into a line of credit, expenses out, and then after every single month, the balance of our debt is going to go by 2,700 plus some interest that we pay for using that line of credit. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do this. So it's to get the next month's balance, it's the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest minus our cash flow, which is 2726.34. 272634. And then what we do now is we get the interest, right? The interest, which is based on the average daily balance, right? The average daily balance. We take that average function, multiply it by the interest rate, so it's 0.09, and then divide by 12 because the interest is calculated monthly. All right, and so now let's go ahead and do this. Blam. And then we see that in 17 months, whoa, we paid off that credit card debt. So 42 grand in 72 months. I'm so proud. All right. So 42K, 17 months. And then we did that. And then now we got to get rid of the auto loan, right? So let's go ahead and get rid of the auto loan. And actually, I need to make this 3%. And so how many months has passed? Let me go back again. This is going to be 17 months. 17, will blam, right? 17 months, okay? All right, so now we have a balance of 16 grand. Okay, we paid 1,700 in interest already. Now we can increase our cash flow by moving the 16 grand of debt into that line of credit. And we want to start off with this low balance because, hey, if I move the 16 grand of debt into that line of credit, I get $430 back in cash flow. Whereas if I need to get double that cash flow back, I got to pay $194,000. I'm like, whoa. Obviously, if I go with this one, I get more bang for my buck. So let's start off with that. And let's go here and move that this right here. Okay. And let's move the 16 grand. Again, it's kind of like a balance transfer. 16472.45 here. And then what do we do here? Well, basically now this auto loan cash flow is ours. So it's zero. Okay. So now what we got to do is redo the cash flow. Actually, something wrong? Hold on. Something seems a little bit off. C8, C13. Wait, did I screw up? Hold on one second. No, I did not. Okay, excellent. All right, I don't know what happened. So now we put our new cash flow here, which is going to be 3156.79. 3156.79. Okay, so now I'm a little freaked out because isn't this our old cash flow? Or maybe it updated. All right, so I gotta rewind the video because I'm not totally awake. So 3156.79, okay? But at least this cash flow is 2726. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do this. And we see that in month 22, right? Month 22, we have it all paid off. So month 22, excellent. So 22, so how much is in 22 months? And then right here is 66K. All right, so now I think this would be a perfect time to get an investment mortgage. A perfect time. Okay, so let's just go ahead and do this. So this has been paid off. This is going to be 0, right? And then let's get rid of that, and we're at month 22, right? So this is the current balance of our personal home. So it's our personal mortgage. And then I'll just say this one's our investment mortgage. And again, even if we got it at a $100,000 discount after 360 months or 30 years, we paid $328,000. So that's not acceptable, because we know that the landlord reality is we're only going to make about $72,000 for that $200 of cash flow. We may have built equity, but why not get both, right? And so the biggest killer of your cash flow will be your debt. Okay, so let's go ahead, instead of just taking the $200 a month from our rental property, let's apply all of our income, your income, the tenant's income, into paying off debt, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, hey, I'll pay off this debt because it's a higher payment amount and a higher interest, right? And let's go ahead and focus on that, okay? So what is the current, where are we right now? So let's go back here. We're at 22 months, so 22 months is right here. And then, no, we're actually at, the current month is 0, so 22,000. But at 22 months, that's the current balance of this personal mortgage. But let's go ahead and get a rental property. So one of the things that I always tell you is you got to do it from a position of strength, right? So a position of strength. So let me go ahead and write down this payment amount right here. Okay. And whoopsie. Okay. So now let's write this down. All right, so here's the thing. If the tenant doesn't pay us, right, like we have a cost here, and if the tenant doesn't pay us, we're still positive, and that's pretty good, and that's the position I want to be in when I have rental properties, okay? Because rental properties, again, there's a reason why so many landlords say, oh, I got 20 rental properties, and they try to brag it's a good thing, but they know they want to sell it because they're sick of the tenants, they're sick of the toilets, termites, all that stuff, right? They're sick of it, okay? But if we had only maybe 3 or 4 properties to manage, and we only need a hire property manager, and we're going to get all the cash flow we need from those rental properties and a ton of equity, why not do that, right? So let's go ahead. So right now we see that we're in a position of financial strength, and now this is not on hold, okay? So one of the things that we can do, again, we're going to use all of our income, right? So we have this one, our regular W-2 income, plus let's go ahead and add the tenant's income. So let's say for that rental house, it's going to be $2,000 a month. Now with $2,000, you don't get the whole 2,000. You only get about, we're just going to estimate you only get 70% of it because you got expenses and all that good stuff, right? So our income is going to be $7,400 a month. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do this and move $10,000 into our line of credit. So 110,000, okay? And now our new cash flow is just going to be slightly decreased, right? So 3089.26. Okay, so let's just do that right here. 3089.26, right? And then now, how long did it take us to pay that $10,000 off? 1, 2, 3, 4 months, right? And let's just take a look at our loan calculator right here. How much would we have paid if we just did it the traditional way where the landlord is segregating the income, right? So let's take a look here. Ooh, do we even pay $1,000? We only paid $600 on the mortgage. Ooh, and look at all that interest. So $5,000 in interest and not even $1,000 in principal after 4 months. That's what happens when you just take that $200 of cash flow. So what we're going to do is not even take any cash flow. Again, I call it, seeding your rental property. I don't know if that's the right term or not, but we're going to take all of our income and apply the debt. I don't need the cash flow for now. I don't need it, okay? But what I'm saying is when we use our entire income plus the tenant's income to pay off our debt and use our line of credit, as a tool to help us achieve that, right? Because again, if we directly overpay loans, it's a one-way street and it's very hard to get your money back. But if we put it in the line of credit, just a small amount, then we have an incredibly easy way to combine, kind of like Captain Power. Oh no, was it Captain Power? Is that his name? No, Captain Planet. With our powers combined, we make Captain Planet. No, with our powers combined, with our incomes combined, and we're not segregating, right? Because that's what traditional old school landlords do. They segregate their income. We just pay it off quickly, and $10,000 every couple of months, not a problem. Now, here's a cool thing. We have this Velocity Banking Calculator. So let me just kind of open it up right here. Uh, Velocity Banking Calculator that will show us um, what the payoff will be, because it's a little bit complicated when it comes to amortized loans, right? And let me go right here. And so actually I've done this demo in person for real life for somebody else, but let's go ahead and do this again. So $200,000 loan, 8%, 1,400, and we're moving $10,000 into a line of credit, right? And what is our income? Well, our income is at $6,000. And actually, let me just show you what happens if we have a deadbeat tenant who never pays us. So let's say we have a $6,000 income, and we had a tenant who never paid us because we, with the tenant's income, it'd be 7,400, right? And if we include for our general expenses, this is going to be our living expenses plus any other debts that we have. That's not this one because that's included in a separate calculation. We'll see that in under 7 years, we pay it off pretty quickly. 7 years. So I have a rental property. I got a deadbeat tenant because I'm the dumbest or worst landlord ever. Probably paid off in about 7 years, right? Now let's go ahead and combine, okay, combine the tenant's income and our income. So that'll be plus 2,000 times 0.7, 70%, because we're calculating net income here as an easy way to calculate it. So let's go ahead and do that, and we'll blam 4.4 years, right? So you can see in 4.4 years, the first rental house is paid off. 4.4, right? So 4.4 years, first rental house paid off, and look at this, $328,000. That's the bank, what the bank would have made if we just did the traditional way and just took out that $200 a month and segregated our income, right? That's why we need 20 rental houses. All right. So now, okay, now we have the accelerated interest, meaning what do we pay when we do this strategy? It's only 37 grand. 37 grand, right? And so let's go back to the other sheet and just kind of think about this and figure out what the reality is when we do velocity banking as a landlord. Okay, so basically for 4.4 years, we're not going to take any income, right? We don't need it because we're in a position of strength. No income. And so what's 30 minus 4.4? That is, what is it? 25.6 years where we're actually going to cash flow. Okay, 25.6. And so now 25.6, we multiply that, okay? So we multiply that by $2,000 a month times 0.7, okay? And then how many months are there in a year? There's 12 months, and then multiply by 30. Hopefully I did this right. And no, we not by 30. We multiply it by this number. So that's the number of years, and we can see how much cash flow we get. So drum roll. Oh my goodness. So now as a landlord, even though we don't take money for 4.4 years, we're going to get 430K of income, of cash flow, real cash flow, more than the bank, right? So in this scenario, we're like the bank's unofficial middle management. We're a traditional landlord because we're finding a tenant, we're managing the property, but we're getting this itty bitty $200 of cash flow and giving it all to the bank. Whereas in this situation, right, we're getting the real cash flow on one rental house, 430,000 for that 30-year period. And then what does the bank get, right? Let's think about this. What does the bank get? So if we go back to the other screen, it said that we would pay only about 37K of interest. And I like that number. So if I got to borrow $200,000, I'm okay with the bank making some money because it wasn't my money, but I don't want them to make 4 to 5 times more than me. No, sirree. No, no, no. So again, it's because we segregate our income. And we want that, most landlords are delusional. It's like, well, I'm $200 of cash flow is good, and then wonder why they become tired. Like, why am I such a tired landlord, right? And look at tired landlord on Google. They're a great source of deals. So we want to be here, right? And again, that was done in 4.4 years. And so let me just kind of go back to our sheet right here. So right here, so this is 22 plus 4.4 divided by 12. Okay, that's 20, no, times 12. My bad, not divided by 12. Divided by 12. Okay, so that's 74.8 months to have our loan paid off. 74.8. Okay, 74.8. And then this is going to be zero, right? This is going to be zero. And then now we have 4,556.79 of cash flow. Now, I don't know about you. So you have two choices. You can either just, hey, I'm good with my one rental house after 4 years, or you just keep growing, right? And then you got a cheap mortgage. So, you know, you don't have to pay it off. But if you want to pay it off, you certainly can. But let's just keep buying a rental house, not even every year, right? Like we don't even need a rental house every year. We could just buy it every couple of years, right? Because finding a good deal is pretty tough. And people who are like doing really well in real estate, a lot of times I hear that they work 100 hours a week. And I don't know about you, but I'm really lazy and I don't want to do that. So what we do is maybe we do the same thing again. Okay, so we get the first rental house paid off in about 4 years. Again, way better than the average American can't even do it in 30, right? So way better than the average American. Because I don't know if you knew this or not, but the average American pays off their mortgage in about 50 something years because they move or they refinance, right? After every 5 to 7 years. So it's like you're just kind of paying interest up front and then just restarting the loan, right? So that's why it takes so long to pay off that sucker so quickly. But yeah, so 4.4 years, and let's just do it again. Get that $300,000 house for $200,000, and then repeat the process. Get the same type of loan, and then now we have three incomes. Our active income could be your W-2 job. It could be from wholesaling, real estate flipping, Craigslist flipping, it doesn't matter. You have your active income, you got your tenant's income, first tenant's income that's paid off, and then you add the second tenant's income, okay? And then take a look at this 3.2 years. So that second house, that second took us 3.2, right? Okay, let's, again, that's 7 years to pay off two rental houses. Let's repeat that process one more time. What's that third rental house going to take us? Okay, 2.5, right? So third is 2.5. So again, if we're getting rental houses at $100,000 discount, so let's say they're $300,000, probably in 10 years, they're going to be $400,000 houses at least, maybe $500,000 houses. So you're going to cash flow, right? Which is really hard in rental real estate. And then number two, you're going to have a ton of equity. So after 10 years, you're probably going to have millions of dollars in equity. So you could probably do a 1031 exchange. If you've never heard of that, it's just, uh, selling your properties and making sure that you don't pay taxes by buying another rental property or a property that's kind of what they call like for like, right? So if you don't know what I mean by that, I'm not an expert in any means because again, I've never sold a property. I've just bought properties, right? I only have two. So I'm like in phase two of my rental property strategy. In fact, I paid off my own home first so I can get a $280,000 home equity line of credit with easy access to capital so that when a deal comes by, man, I could just be really picky with deals, really picky. So let's go ahead and sum this all up. So this is 4.4 plus 3.2 plus 2.5, right? And that's going to be about 10 years. So in 10 years, we have an easy plan to to get cash flow, good cash flow, and we're probably a millionaire, right? Like, so this is like a slow and steady plan. Obviously, there's ways to supercharge this even further, but what I'm saying is that, hey, you could take it slow and steady and not buy like 20 rental properties a year and do the BRRRR strategy and then keep like refinancing and getting into debt. Because if you have 20 rental houses and they're all in debt and you only have $20,000 of equity per house, you're not going to sleep at night. I almost guarantee you're not going to sleep at night. So once we've done that, right, maybe it's time to pay off our rental house. Okay. So after 10.1 years, so let's just kind of take a look at this, right? So after 10.1 years, how much is 10.1 years? Let's see, how many months is that? So 10.1 times 12, that's, we'll say 121 months. Okay, 121 months. Well, let's just put these details in. So let's now focus on paying off our final expense, which is our personal home. And actually, I didn't even show the other screen, but whatever. If you look at the other screen, I've already, actually, let me just quickly show it. So you can see that at 121 months right here, our balance is $151,000, right? 121 months, $151,000 is our balance. So let's figure out how long it will take to pay off this sucker after having 3 rental houses paid off, right? Because the thing about paying off your house versus a rental house is that the rental house is going to always produce cash flow, right? Yeah, whereas the personal house is always going to be an expense. Okay, so now let's go ahead and do this. $2,000. We take out that rental property mortgage, and then we put it right here. Now, how long is it going to take to pay it off? And it'll be 843.21. Wait, did I not switch? Yeah, 843.21. 2.2 years. So now I got 4 rental houses paid off in about a span of 12 years, right? And if I want to just keep increasing my cash flow, I don't have to buy. I could buy multiple properties in a year, but I just get more, right? Like I don't just easy strategy, easy strategy. And look how much interest I paid, 7 grand, right? So for my own personal house, and then I don't know about if you've ever heard of anybody paying any property less than the amount it would take to pay off a car loan, right? This took less time to pay off this rent house than your normal car loan. Same here, right? And then same as here. And then even, yeah. So again, segregation is bad, right? That's the lesson of today. And that's the quote sins of the traditional landlord is they've segregated their income. Whereas with Velocity Bankers, we supercharged our cash flow and we not only have cash flow, but we have a ton of equity, right? And so again, now you have all these resources. So if you ever want to pull out equity and use it for whatever, you certainly can because you have an asset that's valuable that can be served as collateral to many lenders. All right, well, that's it for today. So hopefully it gives you some ideas. So you might be wondering, where did I learn this from? I actually learned this from Renatus, right? So right now I have only 2 properties and over $500,000 of equity. I paid off my personal home in about 3 years, less than 3 years. I'm set to pay off my rental property in about 2. Again, results not typical. I'm not going to say it's going to happen for you, but I have an easy way where I can just kind of build wealth without like stressing out, right? And I think what happens in this real estate space is too many people get into bad deals for the sake of saying, "Hey, I did a deal," right? You don't ever want to do that, right? But back to my point, I got this from Renatus, which is an educational company. Now, full disclosure, I actually do sell their products and make commission off of them, right? So if you're interested in learning not only velocity banking, but there's more steps to this, like there's a lot more to this than what I show, then go ahead and click the Google form link below. And again, people get like really offended these days that you got to pay for stuff, but here's the thing. If you don't pay, you don't pay attention, right? There's a reason where I can easily pull out spreadsheets and just do this with like a ninja because I watch these classes over and over again. Whereas most people, it's like, well, I don't want to pay for it, and then they get like freak out when they see a spreadsheet. So don't do that, right? So don't freak out. Again, practice is what makes you perfect. And the beauty of the Renatus educational system is that I can see it whenever I want, and I just play the videos over and over again. So a lot of the information, even though I didn't understand it at the time, it's subliminally seeped into my brain, right? Isn't that crazy? But that's just me promoting Renatus because, again, I do make money off of selling their products. Okay, well, that's it, everybody, for today. Have a great day. What day is today? Oh my goodness, it's Thursday. It's already Thursday? That's crazy. Have a great day, and we'll speak next time.